It was in the quiet of London that I first encountered Sherlock Holmes. After my time as an army doctor in Afghanistan, I had returned to England seeking some form of employment. A friend recommended I share lodgings with a Mr. Sherlock Holmes, a gentleman who had peculiar habits but remarkable talents. Little did I know that meeting him would draw me into mysteries beyond anything I could have imagined. Holmes had an air of restless energy as I entered our shared flat at 221B Baker Street for the first time. He was bent over a chemical experiment, peering intently into a flask, completely absorbed in his work. When I introduced myself, he glanced up with those sharp eyes that seemed to miss nothing, sizing me up with an intensity I had never felt before. "I presume you are Dr. Watson?" he asked. "We shall get along very well, I think. The important thing is observation, Watson. Always notice the smallest details." Little did I know then, observation was to become our most powerful weapon against the dark and cunning forces at work in London. Not long after settling in, Holmes and I became aware of a mysterious murder. A man named Enoch Drebber had been found dead in a deserted house on Brixton Road. What was remarkable, and horrifying, was that the word Raish was scrawled in blood on the wall. The police were baffled. No one could explain how Drebber had been killed, or who could have committed such a cold, calculated act. Holmes studied the scene carefully. "Watson," he said quietly, "note the peculiar absence of signs of struggle. This was not a crime of passion. Our killer is clever, methodical. Observe the details of the room, the footprints, the residue, even the way the door has been manipulated. Everything is a clue." I had never seen anyone examine a crime scene so closely. Holmes moved with precision, scrutinizing even the tiniest traces. A mark on the floor, a half-erased footprint, the position of the furniture, all spoke to him in a language I could barely understand. The police were quick to pursue leads, yet they failed to connect the dots. Holmes, in his usual fashion, remained calm and analytical. He collected details with painstaking care, making notes of every observation and weaving them together into a pattern that only he could see. "I think, Watson, that the key to this mystery lies not in London but far away, across the ocean," Holmes said one evening, pacing the room. "Sometimes a crime seems local, yet its origins are rooted in distant events. Observe carefully the handwriting, the manner of the murder, even the victim's habits. There is a story behind it waiting to be uncovered." Our investigation led us to a second murder. Drebber's companion, a man named Joseph Stangerson, had also been killed under strange circumstances. Again, there were signs left intentionally, as if the murderer wanted the truth to be noticed, yet hidden from ordinary understanding. Holmes explained his deductions to me, carefully detailing each step. "Our killer is driven by revenge, Watson. The crime is personal, calculated and executed with precision. Note the clues, the way the messages are left, the subtlety of the threats. This is not random violence, it is the result of a long, carefully plotted plan." We followed the trail of evidence across London, piecing together fragments, letters, interviews, and the most subtle signs left by the murderer. Holmes's attention to detail was extraordinary. He could deduce a man's habits, background, and intentions from the smallest observations, and he never rushed, never assumed. Holmes soon uncovered that both murders were linked to events long before the victims had arrived in London. Through careful questioning and research, he revealed a story that stretched back years to the American West. A young woman named Lucy Ferrier had been cruelly separated from her father and forced into a life of sorrow by a ruthless man named Jefferson Hope, the mastermind behind the murders. Hope had sworn vengeance on those who had wronged Lucy and her family. Drebber and Stangerson were not just victims of chance. They were chosen for the cruelty they had inflicted and the injustice they had perpetuated. Holmes explained, "Observe, Watson. Every step of the crime is tied to old grievances, not greed or passion alone. The murderer is methodical, but his motive is deeply personal." One afternoon, Holmes received a crucial piece of evidence that allowed him to identify Hope. It was the careful study of the letters, the locations, and even the way the victims moved through the city. He noticed patterns invisible to the police, patterns that spoke of a man seeking revenge across continents. Holmes arranged to meet with Hope, confronting him in a calm, deliberate manner. "Mr. Hope," he said, "you have sought to right a wrong in your own way. The law must now determine justice, but you will answer for the murders committed in this city." Hope did not deny his crimes. He recounted the story of Lucy Ferrier and the wrongs inflicted upon her family, explaining that vengeance had driven his actions. Holmes listened carefully, noting every detail, every nuance, until the man's story fit perfectly with the evidence Holmes had already collected. The police arrested Jefferson Hope, and the full story of the murders, long obscured, became clear. The seemingly random and baffling deaths in London were the result of a chain of events rooted in old grievances, love, and revenge. Holmes's careful observation and deductive reasoning had unveiled the truth where others could see only confusion. In the quiet of our flat after the case, Holmes reflected on the events. "Watson," he said, "the human mind is capable of both extraordinary good and terrible evil. Understanding motives, observing details, and reasoning carefully allows us to navigate the shadows where others see only darkness." I, as always, marveled at Holmes's brilliance. He had untangled a web of mystery that spanned continents, motives, and years. His methodical, logical approach had revealed the truth behind what initially seemed inexplicable, and justice had been served. Thus ended our first adventure together, yet it was only the beginning. 221B Baker Street had once again witnessed the combination of danger, intellect, and human drama that would define our lives. I could see even then that Holmes's powers of observation and deduction were unmatched, and that no mystery, no matter how complex, would remain hidden for long. The murders of Drebber and Stangerson, the story of Lucy Ferrier, and the relentless pursuit of Jefferson Hope became a tale that would stay with me forever, a reminder of the sharpness of Holmes's mind and the depth of human emotion intertwined with crime. And so, we waited, ready for the next letter, the next visitor, and the next adventure that would draw us once more into the world of mysteries only Sherlock Holmes could solve.